18th, 2026 Long Range Planning Committee meeting on the 1401 Langston Boulevard Special Glove Study. We will be holding a hybrid public meeting, which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia for the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted on July 7th, 2022. Members of the LRPC are participating both here in person and virtually through electronic means. We will do a roll call after I do these announcements. This meeting is being recorded for our public records and will be posted on the Arlington County Commission's meeting YouTube page. Avoid sharing any personal information that you would not like to be made public. At this time, I'd like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment and cover a few specifics about how tonight's meeting will run. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using the Microsoft Teams link provided on the LRPC web pages, the county's events calendar, and the email notification sent to LRPC Zoco email subscribers. Additionally, there is a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. For our planning commissioners joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For our virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed. I will address when it's appropriate to turn it on in a moment. Microsoft Teams meeting chat is active to serve two purposes: to assist participants who need technical support and for participants to pose brief clarifying questions to the larger audience. While the clarifying questions will be monitored, they will not be formally acknowledged. Staff may address these comments as appropriate. The Teams chat should not be used for discussion or inappropriate statements. Those who are planning to provide public comment may do so at the end of the meeting, as the chat may be noted, may not be used for that purpose. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public testimony periods. I would also like to remind everyone in the room to speak up, speak slowly and clearly, and point somewhat in the upward direction so our virtual attendees can hear you. If commissioners participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of the meeting, please turn your video feed on and raise your virtual hand in Teams. Staff will be monitoring the video feeds. And let's see, do we have any commissioners who joined us by phone today without the video option? No. Okay, great. Unlike the Planning Commission's regular meetings, the LRPC agenda item is not a public hearing. Therefore, public comment is at the LRPC chair's discretion. I will call for speakers at the end of the meeting after the committee discussion has concluded. Members of the public attending virtually will speak first, followed by in-person attendees. The speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have this evening. In-person attendees, please add your name to the speaker list on the table over here. Virtual attendees, please indicate in the chat that you would like to provide comment and your name will be added to our list of speakers. Ms. Alfonso Ahmed will acknowledge your request in the Teams chat. When virtual attendees are called on to speak, you must unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that is located in your meeting command bar. The moderator does not have the ability to unmute you. You will be muted when your time has concluded. As an alternative, public comment may also be provided in the public comment form posted on the LRPC website. Lastly, this is a public forum. Tonight's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to Freedom of Information Act requirements. Okay, well, thank you very much. Why don't we start off by going around the room for or what group you're representing. We'll do in the room first, and then we'll do our virtual attendees. So would you like to start over here?
Hi, I'm Evan Pritchard, and I'm representing the Economic Development Commission tonight.
Thea Bagley, Planning Commission.
Paula Lugao, Planning Commission.
Adriana Torres, Planning Commission.
Karen Serpis, Housing Commission.
Joe Ventrone, North Roslyn Civic Association.
Dave Early, Parks Commission.
Eric Malpelli, Pedestrian
Commission.
Susan Hussain, Transit Advisory Committee.
Tenley Peterson, Planning Commission.
Tony Steiner with Planning Commission.
David Howell, Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
Chris Gladstone, I'm president of Quadrangle Development Corporation, representing the applicant.
Nick Cummings, Walsh Galucci, land use attorney for the applicant.
Aaron Roberts, North Highlands.
Matt Ladd, Arlington County Planning Division.
Margaret Rhodes, Arlington County Planning.
Evelina Knodel, Arlington County Planning.
Okay, and is there anybody else who's a member of our roster that's in the room right now? Somebody who's part of the, yeah,
David Briggs, alternate from North Highlands.
okay, perfect. Anyone else in the room? Okay, then why don't we go to our virtual roster members?
Hi guys, Ben Keeney, North Highlands.
Goodman. I think we just need to ask them because it's hard to see from here and I don't have the list memorized.
Yep, just feel free to go off of mute if you are a roster participant that's online.
Evening,
Good
everybody.
evening. I'm sorry about that. Good evening. This is Samuel Giacinto, the alternate for North Roslyn Civic Association.
Evening, everybody. This is Malcolm Gregory. I'm the alternate for Cindy Lewin, representing Climate Change, Energy, Environment Commission.
Okay, great, thank you very much. And as a reminder, each organization gets one participant for the evening who will be having the conversation. So if you are an alternate and you have your primary already at the table, then please just text them your thoughts and have them ask the questions for you. So anybody else? Okay, so let's just quickly, now that we know who the conversation is amongst the roster members tonight, and then we do have members of the applicant team and members of the public. So let's just do a quick round robin to do introductions there too.
Sure. Joseph Plumpy, Studio 39 Landscape Architecture with the applicant.
Mike Pinkowski with FICA Transportation with the applicant.
And I'm Bob Cochran with Blanco also.
Bob Knopf with Quadrangle.
Jessica Washington, lanes attorney with Walsh Galucci, representing the applicant.
I'm Paul Keller, Vice Chairman of Mac Real Estate Group.
Mimi Hess, Vice President at Mac Real Estate Group.
Elise Rabicoff, COO and General Counsel at Quadrangle with the applicant.
Robert Millman, analyst with Macro Estate Group.
Jan McComnick, Davis Carter Scott Architect.
I want to introduce myself, David Briggs with North Highlands.
Andrew Hayes, DES, TNO, Arlington.
Stuart Stein, resident of the nearby area, Radnor Heights.
Right, Natasha Alfonso, coordinator for the LRPC.
I'm Steve Offit. I'm also on the Bus Advisory Committee, alternate to Chris.
Hi, everybody. Allie Henry, Roslyn Bid.
Chris Kreider, Urban Design and Planning Division.
Lauren Flores, Planning Division.
Want to say hi, Giselle?
Giselle Johnson, planning commission.
Okay, and then folks online, how many do we have? Usually people just say hi real quick.
There are 19,
Oh,
but they're
okay.
mostly public.
Yeah, members of,
Oh, yeah, I think we've already acknowledged the reps.
okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. Let's now move on to our staff presentation.
Good evening, I'm Margaret Rhodes with the Planning Division. And I want to preface this by saying we have a lot of information to cover this evening, so I'm going to try and move through the slides quickly. But we can go back and look at anything in more detail after we've completed our presentation. In terms of what we're going to be covering tonight, we have several different topics. So we're going to start with an overview of the special study policy and process, the requested amendments, the existing site conditions, and existing planning guidance. And we're going to turn it over to the applicant for a very brief presentation. And then we're going to conclude with a staff analysis of the process options and then move into the LRPC discussion and next steps. Some of you may be familiar with the special general land use plan or special study process, and others may not be. So in 2008, the county board adopted a policy for consideration of unanticipated general land use plan amendments. And this policy calls for a community review process in those instances where there is either no adopted plan for the subject site, or where the requested designation is inconsistent with the guidance of the relevant plan. And the studies evaluate the appropriateness of the requested general land use plan change and other general land use plan categories that may be appropriate. And since 2019, we've adopted a two-tiered approach. And so here we have on the next slide, an overview of the sequence of public reviews for a special GLUP study. So where we are right now is with the tier 1 review. And the question that we're asking tonight is really to study or not to study. We're focusing on high-level land use questions, and we're determining whether or not we should proceed with additional study. The tier 2 review would be my potential next step. And this study, this review asks the question, what general land use plan category or categories is most appropriate? And during a tier 2 review, we would look at the land use, density, zoning, transportation, transitions, etc. And the outcome is a request to advertise or not to advertise a GLUP amendment. And we also produce a study guidance, a study document with guidance for future state development. And then, should there be an interest in proceeding, there could be a site plan review. And I know many of you are more familiar with that. And that is where we look in a detailed way at a specific development application. And so to give an example of some of the things that we might look at for the different categories here, for example, for tier 1 review, we might be saying bike trails are a topic that we want to consider further. For the tier 2 review, we might be saying what should the relationship be between the site and the bike trails. And then for a site plan review, we might be saying, well, where exactly should the bike trails go? This is an example of the level of specificity that we'd be looking at. So to give a brief overview of what a tier 2 full review might encompass, we would be looking at the history of the general land use plan and zoning designations. We'd be analyzing relevant plans and policies. We'd, of course, be looking in depth at the proposed GLUP amendment request. We would do 3-dimensional computer modeling. We would put together a preliminary transportation analysis. We would, of course, consider equity, and there would be 1 or more online feedback opportunities. And the recommendations would be reflecting potentially appropriate general land use plan designations. And then there would also be other recommendations to guide future development. Tonight, as we heard, we have a very robust LRPC roster, and I won't list out all these different groups, but we have representatives from commissions, committees, civic associations, HOAs, and the applicant. The equity lens is something that we use to develop and review our special general land use plan studies. The LRPC and community engagement is crafted with attention to these equity principles. And as you saw, the composition of the LRPC is purposely broad and inclusive with multiple community groups represented. To orient us to the site, and Evelina will walk us through in greater detail the site and its context, but here we can see the site, which is located at the foot of the Key Bridge. And it's bounded by Langston Boulevard, North Fort Myer Drive, and the George Washington Parkway. And here you can see in a little bit greater detail the site that we're looking at today. And here are the requested amendments. So the request from the applicant as part of their tier 1 application is to either retain the existing general land use plan designation of high, medium residential and the existing CO 2.5 zoning in anticipation of site redevelopment through what is called a phased development site plan, or PDSP, or to amend the general land use plan to extend the nearby Roslyn Coordinated Redevelopment District, or RCRD, to include this site and change the land use designation to high office apartment hotel in anticipation of a site redevelopment through a site plan application and rezoning to the CO Roslyn district. The applicant is proposing one 10-story hotel, and 5 26 to 29-story residential buildings with approximately 2 million square feet of development, which is about an 8.5 floor area ratio, or FAR. And now I'm going to turn it over to Evelina to give us more information on the site and its context.
Right. Good evening, everyone. So I'm here to talk a little bit more about what an exciting site this is. So looking more generally at the site, starting with what's to the west, we've got the North Highlands neighborhood, which lies within the Langston Boulevard Area Plan, Area 5. This site is unique in the sense sandwiched between the Langston Boulevard Area Plan as well as the Roslyn Coordinated Redevelopment District, just across from Gateway Park to the south. Also to the south of the site, we have the Custis Trail, heavily used, as well as a couple of bus stops. To the west of the site, also notably, we have the Colonial Village branch, which is surrounded by a resource protection area. And that boundary of the RPA actually does go onto the boundary of the site in question. We also have, and then I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other notable things on the site. So that's just a broad overview. So from a historic perspective, we have two sites that lie on the Register of Historic Places. And that is the George Washington Memorial Parkway and the Key Bridge. And so although the site itself is not on the National Historic Registry, it's important to know that it is visible from both of these sites. So that is definitely going to be of concern to many. And then moving forward to the next slide. We also, looking at the site in section, we also understand the important relationship to DC as well. So the site lies at the top of the banks of the Potomac River. And so it offers great views of the river and of Georgetown. But it is also quite visible from the other side, looking across as well. So visibility is going to be a really important consideration on this site. And then moving forward. Okay, so looking a little bit closer at environmental considerations here. So I already mentioned the Colonial Village branch and the RPA. We also are very interested in tree canopy cover. So an assessment said that the site had about 14% tree canopy, but we are thinking that that's probably lower, maybe 10% after the demolition took place on the site. If you look at the site, you can tell. So that is going to be a key consideration. How are we going to look at stormwater management on the site, as well as meeting some of those tree canopy cover goals? The goal for central business districts is 15%, but I think we're targeting higher, more like 25% on this site if possible. Also, again, consideration for the RPA and how what that relationship is going to look like between any development on the site and that creek that runs right into the Potomac River. Moving forward. Okay, and then we also wanted to know a number of really exciting new development projects that are taking place in this area. And so this is just an overview, but we're going to go through them really quickly one by one. So starting with number one, we're looking at the Roslyn Circle. And so this site is actually under consideration by the National Capital Planning Commission as a memorial site, which would definitely draw a lot more interest from the DC side. of the bridge towards the site, which is very visible from Key Bridge. So definitely keeping that in mind and that potential relationship. Also, its relationship from a historic perspective to DC. Moving forward to the next one. Gateway Park, a lot of people are familiar with this project. We have an approved site plan, which is very exciting. The vision for this site could really open up the doors. It is a gateway to Arlington, but it is also a really key connection between this site and the rest of Roslyn. So movement forward on this project is going to be really critical, and building those relationships is also going to be really important to consider. And then the next project, series of development projects that are happening nearby. I think this is also a very current project in the works, 1501 Langston Boulevard, just across North Oak Street from the site, which is currently under review. Proposing an 88-unit, 7-story residential building just across the creek from this site, as well as notably a number of improvements to the Custis Trail, some bike infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure improvements. Next, we have 1900 Fort Myer Drive, directly across from Gateway Park. This project is completed. Just going through, it's a 25 and 38-story towers, 9.91 FAR, 502 residential units, and around 14,000 square feet of retail. Right next door to that, we have 1901, 1911 Fort Myer Drive. This project is approved and is set to move forward 23, 27, and 29-story towers. Density around 9.92 FAR, 845 residential, around 14,000 square feet of retail again. And then next door to that, also across the way of Gateway Park, 1901 North Moore Street, which is under construction, a 27-story tower, 10 FAR, 200 and 423 residential units, and around 12,000 square feet of retail. We're just putting that in context to show the what this neighborhood is going to be looking like in the future, coming up here. So, and then we have an exciting, potentially new boathouse going in at the waterfront with some ancillary buildings that would be just across Roslyn Circle on the other side of North Lynn Street. Offering some new opportunities for both connection to the riverfront as well as recreation opportunities. And finally, we have some exciting also new transportation infrastructure coming in here at various different stages. So in the yellow are the more immediate projects that are going to be implemented, including an expansion of the sidewalk going through Gateway Park between westbound and eastbound Langston Boulevard, as well as some signal infrastructure improvements. And then looking down the road, we also have some improvements to bike infrastructure at various different roadways adjacent to the site, all of which would improve access again between Roslyn and the site and Langston Boulevard. Okay.
Yeah. And now we will look at the existing planning guidance for the site. So the site, as you can see here, is designated high, medium residential. Oh, I think it's okay. Is it okay?
Yep.
Okay. So the site is designated high, medium residential on the general land use plan, and this allows for up to 3.24 FAR of residential development. And you can see here that it's adjacent to notes 9 and 15, which designate the Langston Boulevard Planning District and the Roslyn Coordinated Redevelopment District. And here we have an excerpt from our zoning map. And this is zone CO 2.5. And CO 2.5 allows for building heights up to 12 stories for commercial development or 16 stories for residential or hotel development via site plan approval. And here we have there's the zoning. And then on the next slide, you can see our development zoning history. And so there's been a long history of this site, moving from general business to motel to high residential, then down to high medium residential, where it is today. And then similarly, there have been several different zoning designations over the years, going way back to the 1930s with heavy industry, then moving to CM, CO, and then to the present CO 2.5. In terms of the planning history, there have been a number of different plans. However, this area really remains a generally unplanned area. So the 1992 Roslyn Station Area Plan Addendum, the site included this site in the study area, but there was no specific guidance provided for this site. And it states that CO Roslyn zoning is only applicable to the core of Roslyn. The 1996 Roslyn Coordinated Redevelopment District and CO Roslyn Zoning District did not include this site. And, the site was also ineligible for rezoning to the CO Roslyn District. And then more recently, some of you may have been involved in the review of this. In 2020, site plan number 53, a major site plan amendment was approved under the existing CO 2.5 zoning. And this was calling for the partial demolition and rebuild of the existing hotel to include more hotel rooms and some new residential buildings with building heights of approximately 12 to 16 stories. The approval did expire, and then the site was demolished in 2025. The 2015 Roslyn Sector Plan did not address this site either. The site is just outside the RCRD and is located in an area identified in the plan as the Roslyn Northern Gateway area. The Roslyn Sector Plan vision here, we can see. We go back one more slide. We get here we go. The vision and principles. We have several different vision principles, and you can see this in greater detail in the sector plan. So the vision principle number 1, this is meant to be a global destination. It's meant to have great transportation connectivity, good walkability, appropriate transitions, nature and art creation, and a diverse mix. And the sector plan also has detailed policies for 4 key areas: transportation, public parks and open space, building height and form, and land use, density, and sustainability. And there are additionally approximately 40 pages of design guidelines in the plan. There are a number of relevant comprehensive plan elements that also come into play here. So we have, of course, the general land use plan, and then we would also look to guidance from the Affordable Housing Master Plan, the Forestry and Natural Resources Plan, the Stormwater Master Plan, the Historic and Cultural Resources Plan, and the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Plan. The Master Transportation Plan provides guidance here. The site fronts on Langston Boulevard, which is considered a Type B arterial. This is an arterial segment that serves or is planned to serve a dense mixed-use area. And these Type B arterials require that driveway access be restricted or limited. The other frontage on Fort Myers Drive is on what is known as a controlled access roadway. And this is functionally a restricted corridor where access is tightly managed to support safety and traffic operations. The Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance comes into play. A portion of this site, as Evelina noted, includes the Colonial Branch Resource Protection Area, or RPA. And so a RPA review would be required if there is any development or redevelopment on the site and or any tree removal on site. Regional coordination is also important for this site. The Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, or MWA, and the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, have guidance. And so airspace considerations are very important here. And so we look to these two entities for guidance. And any future phase of study for this site will require more detailed analysis and engagement as we move forward with our regional partners. The National Capital Planning Commission also has guidance, as Evelina had noted. It's important that scenic parkways protect their historic character, and the NCPC encourages local jurisdictions to minimize the impact of development visible from parkways. And then other groups involved are the Roslyn Bid, the National Park Service, and of course, BDOT. There is no neighborhood plan for North Roslyn, but there is the 2025 North Highlands Neighborhood Plan. And this is a plan prepared by the community, not by staff. And highlights include pedestrian safety, preservation of green spaces and expansion of those green spaces, undergrounding of electrical wires, stormwater management, ensuring that it is friendly and open to all, and smart development. And now we will turn it over to the applicant for a very brief presentation.
We will keep it brief. I'm Nick Cummings, obviously introduced myself earlier. We are so excited to be here this evening with you with this brand new team here behind me, now in control of this site, distinct from the last one. I do want to thank the many supportive and thoughtful stakeholders we've met with over the last several months. That includes county leadership, staff, the Roslyn Bid, North Highlands, North Roslyn, and other neighbors. We look forward to continuing collaborative discussions as all of this moves forward. I think we're going to meet at the New Hilton on the 29th with North Roslyn as well. The full development team is here to answer questions. We've got Chris Gladstone from Quadrangle Development. He's going to give our presentation. Quadrangle was the group selected by Mac Real Estate Group, the lender, just behind me. Quadrangle is highly experienced in developing large, complex, mixed-use projects. They've been studying the site for over a decade, have been pursuing it just as long, and have been active in Arlington, including a recent office conversion in Courthouse, 1320 North Courthouse. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Commissioner Peterson, members of the Long Range Planning Committee, and other county representatives. We really appreciate your spending this part of your evening with us. And we, as Nick said, we're extremely excited to be at this point and to be with you today. I plan to share 9 slides, 8 of which actually are around the room here for you, in the hope that these provide you with information that's helpful in your evaluation of our application. There are 4 key points in my presentation. I'd like to give those to you in summary, and then I'll elaborate on those briefly. First, we believe that the height and density we're proposing for this Gateway Roslyn site is fully appropriate. Well, thank you. Thank you, that'll happen. Is fully appropriate and consistent with longstanding county policy for transit-rich sites such as this one. The proposed height and density are essential to creating the significant public benefits that I'll describe that this project provides and that are important to the county and its residents, we believe. Third, this height and density is necessary to make the project economically viable, and an especially important consideration, as you may know, in the current economic environment. And finally, to move our application forward, we hope to arrive at a clear, reliable, and predictable study schedule for bringing this project before the Planning Commission and the board by the summer of 2027. And I think, again, I'll talk more about this, but we're aligned with the staff on that schedule. Next slide is on the screen. This shows what the now vacant site, how it sits in this transit. Could you go, actually, Matt, one before that, sorry. Thank you. In this transit-rich context, and some of this was covered, of course, in the planning staff's description. I would just note that the site is primed for a transit-oriented development. It's within the defined Roslyn Metro station area and is a 5 to 7 minute walk to that station. It's surrounded by an excellent road network, as you can see, as well as wonderful pedestrian and bike paths that move around the site, and we're planning to include those on the site as well. In fact, Walk Score characterizes the site as, quote, very walkable with excellent transit and very bikeable. As a result of the transit-rich attributes and consistent with longstanding Arlington County policy, the Potomac Overlook site is fully appropriate for consideration of the increased density and height we proposed, which is by Roslyn, and indeed the other side of Langston Boulevard from where our Potomac Overlook site is located, has approved densities, as the staff noted, of approximately 10 FAR and building heights of 400 feet, including the Hilton Hotel directly across Langston Boulevard with its 38-story height. And that's why we believe our site is similarly suitable for development with greater density, albeit less than the buildings across the street, and height in keeping with our neighbors. And next slide, please. So as you know, this slide talks about really our thinking process about how we approach the Potomac overlay plan that you see proposed before you. There was the first box on the left that describes this. There was a previously approved development plan that some of you may remember for the site that was never built and has now expired. So at the start, we spent a lot of time and effort thinking about why that plan didn't succeed. And with the benefit of hindsight, the prior plan we think was flawed in its conception. It preserved the then existing hotel and parking deck. That severely compromised the resulting plan, as you can see in the first box on this slide. Those structures limited what could be built on the rest of the site, and at the same time, they made the site an island, disconnected from its surroundings and one that was an effective barrier between the Potomac River and the rest of Arlington. And as the staff report noted, particularly with Gateway Park, there's an extraordinary new opportunity to connect this site and open it up to the public as part of an extensive amenity package. And equally important, as we now know, given the significantly increased cost of high-rise concrete construction and structural parking, which is why you don't see much new development happening, the now expired plan did not have sufficient density. So the project ultimately proved to be economically infeasible. Happily, at least from a planning perspective, the lender, McRealty, funded several $1 million to demolish the prior hotel, which gave us a clean slate to reimagine what is possible on this extraordinary and now vacant site. So using the planned new Gateway Park as our springboard, this allowed us to imagine something completely new to and different from Roslyn's densely packed development. We decided to focus initially not on buildings, but rather on the ground plane of our site, to relate it directly to Gateway Park, to open it up both visually and to the public, to create a plan that's interesting to experience in and of itself, and one that is also a pathway for the public to access the extraordinary and absolutely unique views from the site over the Potomac River and beyond, hence the project name that we're working with, Potomac Overlook.
I'm going to jump in really quickly to say you're at 5 minutes already.
Okay.
So
We'll move along a
Yeah.
bit quicker.
Thank you.
thank you.
This focus on the ground plane results in our decision, you can see this on the next slide, to place buildings on only 1/3 of the site, leaving the remaining 2/3 open. So here's the site plan that you see before you and the result of this deliberate, careful thinking. So as you can see in planning terms, we're maintaining but reconceiving and beautifying the existing pedestrian bridge. The prior plan got rid of that as an important connection to Gateway Park and the metro. We're also planning a major open space that's directly across from Gateway Park. As you can see, that's about a half-acre site, and we're looking forward to coordinating with DPR on what that might be as a complement to Gateway Park. And you can also see on this plan, and we'll see some visual representations, how our planned building separation allowed by the proposed height and density creates a ground plane that's fully 2/3 open space. As you can see on the plan, we're planning 6 buildings that vary in height from 10 to 26 to 29 floors. Again, that compares to the 38th floor Hilton directly across the street from us. And I'll keep going.
1 more minute, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I can help you.
Okay.
So here we've got the 3D model that shows the relative heights between our model and between our proposed plan and the heights of the buildings behind it. I think what's most important here is that we're 15% less dense and 70 feet shorter than our neighbors across the street. So this is a step down from Roslyn. So the next slide. This is going to show you the visual transparency in the open space. What's critical here is that going higher and denser allows us to create this sort of development with 2/3 of the site open potentially for open space, but also creating those visual corridors through the site. That's what height does for us. Next slide.
And density.
And density. These are showing you what the open space can look like. It's critical to note here, canopy trees are possible because we're building a deck that can support that. That is expensive. That's part of what height and density also enables us to do, create these spaces. Next one. Striking views also elevated above that parking deck, but those are the iconic views that are also possible. This would be open to the public as well as part of the public open space. The last 2 slides, we have a summary of the economic development benefits of the project. 16 million in annual recurring county property taxes, huge inputs in short-term benefits of direct labor income. We also have on the screen there a proposed schedule that gets us to approval roughly in the summer of 2027. That is critical. Time kills projects. We've had a lot of success, I think, talking about this with a lot of stakeholders, including staff. And we look forward to cooperating on that timeline and reaching it. Finally, I want to show you something important. The alternative base case for this project is the last slide. What we believe would be very likely to happen here if there was not an increase in permissible height or density for the site is a 5/2 stick-built development over a concrete podium. That's because a 16-story building is not cost-effective, and a developer would be highly incentivized, including potentially the lender, to increase the value of the site, to go with a very realistic, very easily constructible and predictable development that would look a lot like this. Under the existing zoning, something like this is very possible. There is no long-term plan calling for a park on this site or anything like that. Those benefits come about because of a denser and taller project. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now let's go back to staff to wrap up
Thank you.
our
Yes,
presentation.
we're going to try and quickly wrap up here. So we're going to, this is just to refresh your memory as to what the two asks were. One is retaining the existing general land use plan designation, developing through a PDSP. The other is to amend look to the RCRD and look at high office apartment hotel. And here we have a table. We can see the three process options that we've explored. One, of course, the PDSP option. Two is a tier 2 special general land use plan study, such as what we discussed at the beginning of the process at the meeting tonight. And then 3 is a multi-site planning effort, so a small area plan. So options 1 and 2 were requested in the applicant's tier 1 application. And the third is something that was called for in the Roslyn sector plan. And to give you a brief overview of what a PDSP is, it is a general plan for land uses, phasing, building placement, etc. It promotes coordination for larger sites, coordinated development for larger sites. It requires design guidelines. It's reviewed by the Long Range Planning Committee and/or the Site Plan Review Committee. It requires county board, planning commission, and county board action. So the considerations under this option 1, the PDSP review, it's an application-driven process, so it's focused on a specific development proposal. And reviewing a development proposal without a plan or guiding principles can create challenges and inefficiencies. For example, drafting principles and design guidelines while also reviewing them for conformance. And more PDSPs have been used for long-range planning purposes since the county board's adoption of the policy on bulk amendments in 2008. And there are challenges as well in looking at the applicant's proposal for density center. That might be 3 times the density of the current general land use plan designation. And there is an existing tool for adjacent sites with the RCRD that could be used to potentially guide development here. The tier 2 special growth study focuses really on the high level land use. And we encourage people to apply the Roslyn sector plans, holding policies, and design guidelines in a tailored way to a specific site, as opposed to developing guidance from scratch. And tier 2 really looks at the high level implications, and it might also align with the county board's 2008 policy on bulk amendments. And the last is this multi-site planning effort that we potentially anticipated in the Roslyn sector plan. However, a number of the topics, etc., are already underway. So we're already seeing movement on the Gateway Park, on the boathouse, multimodal transportation improvements. Some of these are already underway. And federal and state agencies have also not indicated recent interest in developing their adjacent sites. We think that this would be unnecessary at this time, given that some of these projects are already ongoing, and it would likely take more time to complete than options 1 or 2. So here is staff's recommendation. And of course, we want this recommendation to be informed by the discussion tonight and by your input, and through the input we're recommending the Tier 2 Special General Land Use Plan study. This is the most consistent option with county policy. We think that it actually is a little bit shorter in terms of time frame than option 2 and option 1. And it does not preclude a future PSP application to guide redevelopment of the site. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now the conversation will be among agenda items to discuss tonight. So first we'll cover clarifying questions. Then we'll go to, should this site be further studied? Then we'll go to comments on the preliminary process recommendation. That's option 1 or 2 or 3 that staff laid out. Comments on the subjects and the topics to analyze for the next conversations if we agree that we should move forward on them, as well as priorities and concerns for the site overall. I do want to go to slide 5 of the staff presentations to just kind of clarify, at this meeting, we're in a Tier 1 special GLEP study. So we're really talking about big picture conversations. What are the big picture ideas we want to discuss in forthcoming meetings if we decide to have them? We have a lot of beautiful displays, not talking about the materials that are used or the shape in the future meetings. Do we want to talk about building height? What types of transportation conversations would we want to have in the future? So when we do get into like the second conversation and then potentially eventually an SPRC, that's when we're talking about like the details. So really try to keep it high level. So let's go back to slide 52 where we have our questions. So I'm gonna, since this is a big group, I want to do this as kind of a round robin. So for each agenda item, we'll kind of go around the room quickly. You can we'll start with clarifying questions, just ask a clarifying question or two. If somebody before you has already made the points or asked the questions, you can just say, I agreed with the person just down the row. You can also do hand motions if you agree with what somebody's saying, just so we can all see where there is some consensus while also trying to stay efficient. So let's start with clarifying questions, and if the gentleman at the end can start.
I didn't realize I was putting myself in the
We'll change it up.
I was thinking, I guess my only question is, when you were walking through the various options, it sounds like staff has a clear preference of like what best dovetails with policy. The applicant asked for that optionality. I'm just curious to hear from the applicant if they have a preference.
Yes, and microphone, Margaret, if you needed it. Thank you. I'm glad you asked that because we didn't get to work that into the presentation. We are totally fine with what staff is recommending. What's important to us is the overall timeline, and we've had a lot of success discussing that with a lot of different stakeholders. And we think we've got a realistic timeline. And I take Margaret's point that she feels that anchoring this on the Roslyn sector plan and doing a Tier 2 study will be more efficient. Take them at their word.
Mr. Pritchard.
I want to thank staff for the presentation. I learned a lot, having been the veteran, one of the veterans in this room of the previous Marriott site plan, the whole process there. A couple of clarifying questions. Was there not a GLUB done at that time? So there wasn't. We had the couple LRPC meetings and the SPRC meetings. Okay, thank you. I wanted to clarify that. Does the RP, why wasn't it as an option back when Marriott came up, or is this a more recent development, which is why it's wasn't then? I'm just curious.
So the RCRD has been in place. The previous site plan amendment was designed with the idea of keeping the existing general land use plan designation and the existing zoning. So they were looking to develop under the existing CO 2.5 zoning.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a couple questions, clarifying questions. You spoke about the historic importance of the GW Parkway and the Key Bridge, but I would also consider the fact that the Potomac and the shoreline is very historic. And I'm wondering if you guys have thought about not necessarily responding to Roslyn, which is a man-made boundary, but responding to the park and the green space and extending that into this area that to me naturally seems like it would be a park. And also I have a question about how this got demolished, what the process was, if that can be a brief answer, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I think that we will definitely move the idea of the importance of the shoreline and the Potomac and expansion of green space, et cetera. And those are all topics that we can explore further in part 2, whatever part 2 is going to be, whether it's PFP or special growth study of tier 2. And then in terms of the demolition, the site plan expired and then the site ended up being demolished. So the site plan amendment expired and then it was demolished last year. And I think there's probably information online if you want additional details on how that occurred.
To get a site demolished, we don't sit around to approve that.
No, that was condemned.
Yeah, I'm representing North Roslyn Civic Association, and these are kind of just general questions. One is, it's really amazing that this site is like an appendix. When you look at our association, it just sticks out there. It's almost like Sinai Desert, like no one owns it. I'm amazed that there's never been plans for it and stuff like that. So that's just a side question. But from the people who live in Roslyn, one of the questions is market absorption. We have 2,500 units right now, recently built. Roslyn Tower 500, Revelle 423, Roslyn 1, which is already approved 800, 1401 Wilson, that will have a grocery store that is a high priority for our neighborhood, 800 units. So that's 2,500. We are now looking at 1,700. This isn't me. These are the calls that I get when this development came on board, and they're just wondering if there's going to be enough market absorption. Planned development will help, but we've seen some site plan amendments where some apartments want to do hotel units, and that raises questions. So I'm just raising that as a general comment.
Staff or the applicant want to respond to that?
We certainly think that we'll be able to rent the units. It would be built out over time. That helps a lot. Roslyn's not going to be built in a day either with 1401 Wilson, et cetera. All that's going to be staggered. Obviously, it'll help if in 2 years there's a different administration that doesn't fire as many people, et cetera. But I think we're going to be okay.
I might just add that we're planning a mix of owned housing and rental housing.
Yeah.
Those are two different markets, which helps absorb.
And we love owned housing.
I know you do.
Thank you. A quick clarifying question in terms of the cider. We've got a recommendation from staff. What is the role of this collective group and then the planning commission and the board?
Yeah, so we will collectively give our opinion about what we think makes sense, and then I'll talk with staff and we will work with the applicant and kind of make a recommendation about what we think makes sense for the next step.
Recommendation to.
So we don't vote in LRPC, but we try to build consensus. So ideally, the majority of us feel one way or the other, and then we check back in with staff and see, that's what the group thought. Does that make sense? What do you recommend as the next steps?
The last couple special group studies I've participated in were actually special group study pluses, but I don't remember what the plus differentiates, what's different from that between that and a normal special group study. So A, can you remind me what the difference is? And is staff envisioning a plussing of this group study or a more bog standard old school special group study?
Bog standard old school.
And what did we cover in pluses that we wouldn't in a bog standard?
So special group study plus is typically used for much larger sites and starts with multiple property owners. So I think we're involved in probably the Arlington special general land use plan study, as that was the last plus study that we did.
And I just want to make clear that, or ask staff again, given that this is a tier 1, what we're really looking at is the proposed change the glove within a realm of possibility. We're not deciding anything today. We're not saying it is to be done,
but simply that, is it worth considering and looking more deeply to make that decision down the road? Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're really asking the question tonight to study further or not to study further. And then as part of tier 2, we would evaluate which designation or designations is within the realm of considerations.
So we're not getting to any details. We're simply getting to the basic, is this something that we should be doing further study? There's enough interest here, there's enough worthwhileness to this proposal that we will look into it further to make that actual determination down the road.
Correct, and we would also like your input on through which study vehicle we would do that if there is desire to continue to look at this site. And then assuming that we want to study the site further, what are some of the topics that we need to start preparing and researching so that we can be ready to move into part 2, whatever part 2 is?
Thank you.
Okay, so I've got a process question. So I've just come off the PDSP on River House, and that was a very long process. But does pursuing the PDSP here versus a tier 2 study or a Gulf amendment, does that change the sort of phasing of the approvals here? Because on that project, we approved it for a portion of the buildings on that site.
Let's do it there and
It's time that we're working on it, the meeting's not.
yeah, I told them to log.
Yeah, your members in the room, you're very welcome to get up and look at the
Everyone has a point related specifically to health control topics, and I will explain it if you'd like. Oh, it's working now?
Yeah.
It's back.
Okay.
Apparently, we're back on.
Was your question answered?
A recap to this, if you would. Is there going to be some sort of approval difference between the PDSP and the phase two? The tier two study? And
Right, and just to repeat my answer for the record, if I can, I can remember the answer. A PDSP, so you were mentioning River House, and so River House had a PDSP that covered the entire site conceptually, right, with building heights and land bays, and it also had a final site plan, which was more detailed or a specific land bay, which was the final site plan approval, and future land bays will have to come in to the planning commission and the county board for a final site plan approval. And so that would be the same here, but it's applicant driven, where an applicant decides, how many land bays they're filing final site plans for and when. And so it would be, for this site, if the and like Margaret said in the presentation, go to special glove study wouldn't preclude the application. A multi-building site, but we don't, as staff, believe.
But I will note that we're going to proceed. So go back to the.
And David Braun there.
Aaron Roberts, North Highlands Civic Association. So I have 3 clarifying questions. Does the choice between PDSP and Tier 2 have any implications for how we'll assess the size or nature of the community benefits package? And if so, the second question is, to what extent is the question of economic feasibility a criterion and how any of this is decided? If you can clarify in what way. And then the third is really tactical. When do we expect, as in roughly by what day, when do we expect on Tier 2 versus PDS?
The community benefits package and it's different.
If the question of PDF, that's what. All right. So.
The answer is
Bear
no.
with us.
To that question, in terms of economic feasibility, that's something that we would look at in Tier 2 analysis. That's something, one of the stakeholder groups that we have here tonight as part of our LRPC is the EDC. We'd also be working with our Arlington Economic Development Group to look at that. A lot of that really boils down though to the applicant assessment of that, because we are focused on the land use questions and what we think would be appropriate.
Give Margaret the.
Within the surrounding context, et cetera. So that is something that we would be looking at. That's something really more for. We have the input that we need tonight for our discussion, and that there is some sort of consensus tonight, but that completely depends on the conversation here tonight. And then we would work in conjunction with the LRPC chair to issue a letter following this to conclude the Tier 1 review and outline next.
So we just have members online. That's clarifying.
No one is raising their hand right now.
Okay, any of our roster members who have any clarifying questions online, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we will go on to the next agenda item. Okay, so the next question, thank you, Commissioner Lantelmi, for explaining it so well. Tonight, we're just kind of discussing, is something like this with no details mentioned or committed to, is something like this in the realm of possibility? And so I kind of want to just go really quickly around the room. If you're like, yeah, this could be possible, give me a thumbs up. If you have concerns and you're like, I don't know, like this, then we can pause at you and then you can kind of explain why. But if you're just like, sure, I'm happy to have future conversations about this site, give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay.
I have some concerns, but happy to talk.
Okay, yeah, do you just want to, what your
I
concerns
don't know
about?
what point that I would like to make is appropriate, so I'm trying to
Okay, no,
insert
that's fine.
myself in the
We'll
right,
do
in the right
another,
moment.
we'll have more conversation and then we can do another vote.
It's not apparently.
We'll do another, well, we're not voting, we're just kind of building consensus. We'll do another kind of consensus question at the end after we've had a chance.
So then, yes, you're saying you're
So
getting
you're
a
not- so
consensus
you're not
and then
thumbs
we
up
can make
right
comments at some point.
Yes, well, when we
Because
go
I
to
see
the
that you
next-
have it in the priorities and other,
Yes,
so I might insert myself in there.
perfect, great. Okay.
I'm still a little bit confused as to why this wasn't done before demolishing the building. Because then that could have, to me, this was a landmark in Roslyn. And I don't know how it got condemned. I don't know how it got to that point. Because the building responded very well to the bridge and to Washington DC. And the date that it was design and built was actually important. And not only that, but it responds to the topography that we haven't seen in the presentation further down. So I'm wondering if we really want to discuss this, are we just gonna discuss density or are we gonna discuss overall what this site has the possibility of becoming?
We can discuss what the site has the possibility to become. Yeah.
By the way, Tim, you're not on mic when you're talking.
Hello? Oh, it was off. Okay, now it's on.
Now you're on.
Thank you.
Yeah, speaking of the folks who live in North Roslyn, they would love this developed ASAP. It's been a thorn in the community's side, so everything that we've seen since the applicant was made December 22nd, I've received nothing, negative questions and stuff like that, but definitely move forward.
Okay, interested in continuing the study, yes.
Yes.
Yes, interested to continue the study, yes. Mr. Slat, yes.
And the reason it was torn down, it was a public safety issue. It was
How did it get to become a public safety issue?
because
The White House is older than this building.
last developer went bankrupt and wasn't securing the site. And because it wasn't secured, it was being broken into constantly. Police were being called, fire department was being called, and the county decided that, and gave notice and decided that it needed to demolish this because it was a public nuisance and it was a public safety issue. So they basically forced the hand of the bankruptcy court that it had to be demolished. So there was no public process for that. It was simply done because public safety issue.
Thank you, Mr. Lantelme. Mr. Striner, okay to continue studying. Okay. So far, we have consensus on the idea that we would continue to study this. We'll continue having our discussion tonight. We have the ability to change our consensus if we determine that. So now the question is about the preliminary process recommendation. So if staff can pull up that slide, there were 3 options given. 1, to approach this as a PDSP. 2, to look at this as a tier 2 special GLUP study. That is staff's recommendation. And the 3rd was to look at an older, outdated recommendation to look at this as an area plan, but that is, staff is saying is not really a good idea. So, but you're welcome to say you like that idea. So if we can go around in a round robin fashion again, why don't we start on this side of the room? Do you have an opinion about which approach that we take?
I'll just speak loudly. No strong opinions other than I don't recall what high office apartment entails, but no strong opinions.
Okay. Mr. Howell?
Yeah, I think the staff recommendation is right.
Staff recommendation?
Yeah, I'd say the staff recommendation, and I'm assuming that the staff recommendation would pull the element from the 3rd option that it would consider all of these new developments that are coming in that area. It's not just gonna look at it in a vacuum.
Context is important.
Okay, perfect.
That was my question, but yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion. Staff is saying that, and I think it's.
It pursued with the tier 2, again, because it does not preclude other options, but definitely go ahead with the tier 2.
If the tier 2 club is what can be done more quickly so that we can hopefully actually get this thing built, then I support the tier 2.
Yeah, tier 2. Another clarifying question on why you thought it would be faster than the PDSP?
So we would need to look at the same subjects, whether we did the tier 2 or the PDSP. We need to look at land use mix, building heights, density, access, transportation, connectivity, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that the tier 2 option could be more efficient because we could potentially look to the Roslyn sector plan for its guidance in the RCRD and apply that guidance in a tailored manner to this site and apply the design guidelines from the Roslyn sector plan to this site as well, as opposed to crafting all new guidance for this site, which is something that we've done for other special GLUP studies. But here we have an adjacent area that has been heavily planned, so we were involved for multiple years in that planning, and so we can draw upon that guidance.
Thank you.
Tier 2.
Tier 2.
Tier 2. Tier 3.
So that was option 3? Yeah, okay.
Tier 2 with, and associate myself with Commissioner Strider.
Staff's recommendation, tier 2.
Associating myself with Mr. Slat's comments, so tier 2.
Okay, thank you. And if we have anybody online who can hear us, please raise your hand if you are a roster member and have an opinion on if we should do option 1, a PDSP, option 2, the tier 2 special glove study, or option 3, the multi-site planning effort.
This is Malcolm Gregory on behalf of.
No one, we have Sam.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Please come off mute
I just
and,
wanted to,
can you remind us your name and your affiliation? Which group are you representing
Sure.
for the roster?
sure, this is Samuel Giussano. I'm the alternate for the North Roslyn Civic Association. I support tier 2 simply because it seems
Who
like
that
it would be
is?
the most
Samuel.
expedient
Pardon?
option.
Samuel.
And which group is he from?
The North Roslyn Civic Association.
That way they might not have.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Mike.
Samuel, can you come off mute and let us know which roster
Mike
group
is
you're
not on,
representing?
Mike's not on, right now, for some strange reason.
They're all on.
Yeah, it's like, it's on a timer or something.
Samuel, can you come off mute and let us know
Can you
which
hear
roster
me?
group you represent?
Hello?
And then please let us know which option you prefer.
Can you hear me? Hello?
So it looks like he's representing the Georgetown Vista HOA and as an alternate, the North Roslyn.
Okay, and we can't hear him if he's trying to give us feedback, so please, if you'd like, you can put your recommendation in the chat. Sorry.
Yeah, he's not hearing either.
He says he can't hear, but he commented tier 2.
Tier 2, okay, perfect. And was there anybody else joining us online? Okay, so it sounds like the consensus amongst the group, we're not doing a vote, but consensus is to go with the staff recommendation. So now we can talk about the comments on the subjects to analyze for part 2. So if we did proceed with the tier 2, what topics, what big picture ideas are we interested in talking about? What interests do you have? So it could be land use mix, it could be building height and density, it could be transportation issues, open space, the pedestrian bridge, not necessarily what is your opinion today, but what do you want staff to study? What do you want them to think about? What do you want to hear presentations about in the future? So why don't we start back over here again?
Sure. Big topic for me would be sort of touched on in what they touched on in the applicant's presentation is about finally figuring out how to really fully activate Arlington Gateway Park. It's such a great potential. And this might be, the way to finally find the secret sauce to make that happen, expand it, and just really literally bridge the gap between this site and the rest of Roslyn. It's always been an orphan. Gateway Park's always been underutilized. The redhead, sort of orphan little parcel that nobody really goes to. So that's what activation is what's key for me.
Thank you. I have a couple of things. One, building height and density, since this is higher than what we talked about in the past. Also a nod to history. There was a tremendous amount of history that was discussed during the Marriott's process, and there was an incorporation of that ultimately made. Biophilia, the plan that came in from Marriott, I believe, set a new standard for us in the county looking at that. So biophilia will be important. The views back in the Marriott thing, I do remember, I thought that we were, and you alluded to it in your slides, that, that there is the National Capital Planning Committee, or whatever it is, that says you've got to have certain views. So clearly that's important. Obviously FAA, that is a flight path right through there. Bird-friendly glass, from what I can see here, there's a lot of glass, and that is a huge migratory bird pattern along the river. Tree canopy, of course, is so important there, as well as stormwater management, and also how still I'm not convinced since 1901 North Moore has come in with a major site plan amendment. It's being constructed now and they're asking for a lot of hotel rooms versus, so I'm not convinced about that. And then also how many of the 1,727 rooms will be owned versus rented? Thank you.
For me, the topics that are important would be what kind of an anchor is this? What kind of a landmark is this? Because everything seems, all roads lead to Rome. It seems that actually they all seem to lead here right now. And so I would like to think about this highly visible gateway along the Potomac. It's directly facing Georgetown and the Kennedy Center. And so I'm just wondering if there's a way to think about this as something other than just a development, something that can bring community, an open space that is not just, just art, but it's actually a cultural or civic attraction. It's a gathering spot. And I was thinking about the shed at Hudson Yards, with it's an instructive performance art center, some kind of space that is just beyond what we're simply proposing here. Seems to be something that we should really think about. And so I think, there's an opportunity here to explore a similar idea at an appropriate scale, a cultural component, a civic element that is physically and programmatically tied to an open space and helps create a true destination. That's what I would like to really see here.
I'd like to see studies on bike path, pedestrian, connecting pedestrians to the nature that's already there would be wonderful. Density, if it has to be residential, but I'm more concerned about the historical aspect because it's such an important site. And so I think sections both north and east would be very important, especially because it's right across Georgetown. And not just 2D sections, but we have Google Earth, we have 3D. I think we need to start looking at that for this site because it's very important. And then open spaces, because I think this site is so close to already a dense area. I can see this space being something like Central Park for the citizens or the people that already live in Boston.
Thank you. I'm excited that there is a condominium that's being proposed as part of this development. It would be wonderful if there were some affordable homeownership set aside in this condominium that I'm sure is going to be nice and luxurious. But if somehow that can work, that would be great, along with whatever AHIP contribution you will be making. Thanks.
Sorry, quick request from those online that you introduce yourself before you speak, because not everyone can tell them speak.
Joe Lynch, Roslyn Civic Association. I associate myself with the first speaker about Gateway Park. We fought to get on Central Place to get additional funds so Gateway Park could be immediately developed, and this Potomac Overlook would enhance that and vice versa. So that's a priority. Transportation is a real challenge in Roslyn. Kudos, pickup and drop-offs are an extreme challenge on streets that are being developed with commercial and residential. This project will have its own driveway, et cetera, so that should not be a problem. I wish other developments that are being developed in Roslyn would factor that in, because driving in Roslyn is an extreme challenge. This site has just been dormant. The people that live in Roslyn are very enthused about it. I would really like a grocery store. I was looking at the Wegman Fannie Mae concept up on Connecticut Avenue. A Wegmans development would be great there, but shopping people will not come in unless there's a demand, and we already have 1401 being developed with hopefully a grocery store. But I'm looking at the applicant that hopefully when all 6 buildings are in, maybe you can factor something in there.
Dave Early with the Parks Commission, would like to associate with the prior comments on open space, tree canopy and so forth, add stormwater to that. A new topic would be the visual impacts from the parkway and other NPS lands, to really understand what standards are used to say what an impact is. Thank you.
Eric Montpellier, Pedestrian Advisory Committee. The site would generate thousands of new pedestrian movements a day, including people coming to the site as an attraction. So I encourage the process to look at the implications for pedestrian safety and connectivity on all of the approaches to the site. They're outside the footprint of the site. So from the bridge to the site, metro to the site, bike trail to the site, and park to the site. Thank you.
Chris Lamp, Vice President Advisory Committee. The relationship of this site to and the design of the Custis Trail adjacent to the site. That we look at the nature and design of Langston Boulevard adjacent to the site. It currently feels a lot like a highway, and I think really need to get to where it feels like an urban complete street. I associate myself with the remarks about Gateway Park. This feels like a real opportunity to connect and enhance Gateway Park with this site. Agree with the comments about access to nature. I hope that we look at not just pedestrian circulation to the site, but also through the site. And that we think real hard about retail activation and vitality. These edge sites have a nasty habit of starting to feel dead unless you're very intentional about activating them. And with Gateway Park right there, I think we want something that can draw people, not just, people will come to Gateway, but can we draw them even further across the street, to this site? Great, thank you.
Yes, associate myself with Commission, this is Joe Lantelmi, Planning Commission, and I'm associating myself with the transportation comments of Commissioners Slat, Malpelli, Torres. Pedestrian circulation is extremely important here, especially in the metro. Also would like to see the relationship between this and the, if any, and the new boathouse that's going up a few blocks away. Does that have any impact one way or another on that? So thank you.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I just want to associate myself with most of the comments made previously. This is a pretty high traffic area, with a lot of car traffic in this area. So I think just going forward, ensuring that you're prioritizing transit and how this integrates with the larger transit network is going to be really important, just given how transit rich Roslyn already is. So just making sure that kind of comes, in some ways comes above the kind of street infrastructure and the drivers, because people are driving, but people are also walking, and the amount of people that are come from this development, it's going to make transit all the more important. And lastly, how it integrates with the larger transportation projects in that space, just to make it so much more innovative. That will be like a good part. Oh, also about the grocery store idea. I think that kind of makes, that has that level of activation that Chris was talking about. I think that's really cool.
All right, this is Tony Strider from the Planning Commission. I would add, well, I'm not adding necessarily, I'm more repeating, but transportation and pedestrian safety pieces are very important for not only this site, but several other sites that are adjacent to it. And other people have mentioned the Custis Trail. I think that's a very important factor here that needs to be looked at as we're making Langston a more complete street. But I think probably the biggest issue here is the sort of land use and the arrangement of these buildings on this site. If the goal is to maximize these views, the goal is to maximize this green space, this biophilic natural environment, I think that should really be a big focus of this study on how the arrangement of these structures best achieves those goals. I think also points that have been made on the commercial activity. I think a lot needs to be looked at intentionally on how to make this feel like a community, not just a bunch of apartment buildings that they have to cross the street to get to anything. And then, of course, affordable housing is something we're always keen on the Planning Commission. And so integrating on-site affordable units to make sure that the people of all income levels can be integrated into this really exciting part of the community.
Yeah, I associate myself with comments of Commissioner Bagley and Mr. Steiner in particular, but also the others. I would like to just add for emphasis. This is a unique site from the point of view of natural resources because you have the river and the riverside riparian area all the way up through most of Arlington and all the way down. And so this is a wildlife corridor that enhances the importance of bird-friendly glass. And it also enhances the opportunities for connectivity into Gateway Park, which is going to have all native plants and be very strong in providing biophilic environments for people. And that to have that as a continuity through this property would be fantastic. And probably get into the journals. Special project. So.
Ms. Roberts.
Yeah, maybe I'll just speak loudly. I'll already here. Aaron Roberts, North Island Civic Association. So we're covering what should be studied. That's
Yes.
okay. I have a short discussion. So first and foremost, and just to echo this, but it's incredibly important, transportation safety and traffic management. This really bears repeating. People have lost limbs, people have died in or around this area. It doesn't get better by adding more bodies. It requires thoughtfulness. The second, and here I'll double tap on something that Jim had alluded to. How can development of this site also be used to activate the entrance to Mount Vernon Trail, this adjacent space? I hope we all agree that it's sad and desolate today. There's a project that staff have mentioned that could take place there, this boathouse project. Let's study that as well. Something that I don't think has been mentioned. What does this development entail for APS, Arlington Public School capacity and other public services? We'd be negligent if we're not thinking about that. And then the obvious one is building height and density. And then around the topic of green space, I think most are familiar with the fact that the adjacent property is owned by the US federal government, National Park Services. Is there a way to make that area more friendly, more welcoming? It probably wouldn't cost a lot of money. It would require a lot of negotiation at the county board level. But is there a way to do that in an intelligent and thoughtful way? And to echo some themes that I think we've heard, how can we be bolder about the open space? Is there a way on this site to create more open space? Go bolder. And then finally, I like grocery stores. Let's look at grocery stores. Thank you.
Okay, and folks online, if you have comments, sorry guys. Folks online, if you have comments about what subjects should we discuss and study for potential future conversations, please raise your hand and we will call on you.
No hands raised, but Samuel did write in a comment.
Okay, can you read that?
Yep. So he says, he's a rep for Georgetown Vista HOA and also an alternative rep for the North Roslyn Civic Association. His comment is, would try to engage the National Park Service as much as feasible for the space. I know they aren't the most responsible, but would try to at least say we tried. If we care about tree canopy so much, we can remove the invasive English ivy from the trees on their property.
Okay, thank you very much. And to any members of the LRP subcommittee, LRPC subcommittee who are trying to participate online and you're limited based on technical challenges, please know that you can email us your comments and feedback in addition to using the chat. And we will take that into consideration tomorrow and the day after and make sure that those comments are included in discussions. Okay, so I just wanted to go around the room or just wanted to review what I heard around the room. We got a lot of feedback here, very helpful for staff. Areas where I heard consensus is Gateway Park activation, building height and density, making sure we're looking at the history of the site and paying homage to that. Biophilia, views, sustainability and bird migration, stormwater, the ability for condo ownership, the ability for on-site affordable housing, making sure to look at the apartment condo hotel mix, looking at the biggest issue I think I heard consensus on is transportation, pedestrian and cyclist connections to nature, making sure Langston Boulevard feels very safe and a community and is a complete street. We talked, a lot of people are interested in open space. A lot of people are interested in the retail component and would love to see a grocery store. Pedestrian circulation, I mentioned that. Okay, so that's where we've heard consensus, but staff wants to go back to our meeting minutes and review and see if there were some things I missed just now. Did you have a comment?
Community came up.
Yes, community came up a lot.
Different ways of thinking about community.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so now I just want to, we're coming to the end of our discussion. I want to go do another round robin. We'll start over here. Are there priorities or concerns for the overall site that you haven't gotten a chance to mention, or somebody else said a comment and you were like, actually, I agree with them, but I went first, so I didn't have a chance to align myself with that earlier person. So we'll start over here. Priorities or concerns for the overall site that haven't already been mentioned.
Have not already been mentioned. No.
Okay.
But it's,
All right.
One thing, under Plan Langston Boulevard, which this site isn't in it, but nonetheless, it's to look at Langston Boulevard. This shows the need for Langston Boulevard from Roslyn to I-66 to be restudied, to be reconfigured as a complete street. And this project adds to the pressure that needs to be done sooner rather than later. Yes.
I'm with his comment right now.
I'd mention the architecture should probably not just reflect Roslyn, but also reflect Washington, DC.
I associate myself with that comment.
Doris, did you get a chance to raise the issues that you were alluding to earlier? Do you want to have a second to?
My concern is that there is already a natural border of density. And the previous structure that was demolished was a landmark to me. When I thought of Roslyn, I thought of Marriott, and that responded to the Key Bridge, the monuments, and also the topography of the site. So a new structure, I think, needs to reflect something similar, both in density and how it looks, and then everything that everybody said.
I worked in LA. I worked in a lot of memorial spaces, a lot of spaces that were activated, as somebody mentioned, through architecture, through open space, through the park, through historic remembrances. And I think it seems like these themes have come up enough here. We certainly are facing Georgetown. We're facing, as I said, the Kennedy Center. We're facing the river. We're facing nature. I think all of these elements should be brought somewhere, whether it's through Gateway Park. And there was another piece of the park that I think you guys are working on, that maybe there's an opportunity there to do something interesting. I would like to see interesting show up. And so that's where my need from you is to give us something that where we want to go to and look at, because it's gonna be everywhere. And it's surrounded by a lot of meaning, and I think you bringing meaning make me very happy.
Can I just ask staff, now that you brought it up, does the skyline come into consideration with this project? I know when we were doing Penn Place, the skyline was an important consideration. So would this, where do we consider the skyline to be the vantage point for Arlington?
So I think if we move forward with tier two, which seems to be the consensus, and consider how this site could be folded into the Roslyn sector plan. The Roslyn sector plan addresses those skyline issues and building heights, and there's the whole peaks and valleys approach for those who remember the Roslyn sector plan process.
Okay.
Remembering back to the Marriott site, there was a individual walking tour that I was given by a former planning commissioner, which would not be good for most humans to go on. It needs to be kind of a billy goat back there, but it is a Native American trail. I understand, so I don't know if there should be some homage or some sort of something to it, so.
I'll just say, I don't have much to add other than I agree with the commissioner's comments about how Keybridge Marriott was a landmark. But I'm really excited about the possibility here for something new. And I see Doug Carter sitting back there. He's got a fine team. I've worked with him on a lot of projects, and I think there's a way to do this to really make a new landmark and really make this a great spot. And so I'm just, at the risk of repeating myself, I'm just going to say, lived in Arlington now for 25 years and had, even when the Keybridge Marriott was there, it was a neat building to look at from afar, but it was not a fun building to walk around. And I'm really excited about the possibilities here of making, somebody said it a moment ago, really making a place that even if you're not living in one of these buildings, like this is a project you take visiting family from out of town when you want to show off the county you live in. So that's all my gushing for now.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that we could all collectively be excited about the potential for what could be here. Okay, so we do have this like last category of other. I'm not going to do a round robin. Is there anything somebody hasn't felt like they missed their opportunity to say something, want to bring up a question or a point? Otherwise, I'm going to do another quick, ask the group. Do we continue to feel that this project warrants continued study for, subsequent meetings? So if everybody can just give me a thumbs up if they feel like, yes, subsequent meetings are fine. This is the same question that we asked at the beginning of the meeting. Should this site be studied further? So just based on this conversation we had, do you agree this site should be studied further? Yes, so we have consensus that it should be studied further. Okay. So I think now we can move to public comments.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have one virtual, that's Anne Bodine. I
Okay.
don't know if she's still having some tech issues.
Ms. Bodine, are you available for public comments? You can either come off mute or you can call in to the Microsoft Teams number.
Oh, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Chat about technical difficulties.
She did earlier. She did earlier.
We were having some issues earlier with the room audio with Mr. Jacinto.
She may not be able to
Can you hear
hear
me?
our
Can you hear me?
voices.
I think
Hello?
they can hear us,
Oh,
but
Hello?
we can't hear them was what was
Hello?
happening with
Okay.
Mr.
She's
Jacinto earlier.
muted right now,
I'm
so.
speaking.
Okay, she's waving her hands. Hi, Anne. Can you come off mute? Can we hear you?
I'm off mute. I'm
I
off
Okay,
think,
we
I
can't
think
hear
it's an issue on our end, and I think even if she calls in, it's somehow.
Do you have your comments written down? Do you want to paste them into the chat and someone can read them out loud?
She just called.
She can't. They just
Okay.
said she can't talk. You want to call me? My phone
Put
number.
on speaker.
Evelina, why don't you turn off the speaker?
wanna give out your-
Turn off the microphone.
Anybody hear me? Anybody hear me?
Okay, I'm laughing.
Trying to figure it out.
You may want to type your comments.
Okay, and can you try talking now? Can you hear us?
Can you hear me? I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Hold
Can you
on.
hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh, all right, we got something.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay! Okay, whoever did that, thank you. Whoever the sound technician is.
Okay.
All right, so are you ready for me?
We're getting a microphone and I'm gonna set the timer for 2 minutes.
Okay, great.
And
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for all that effort to let me speak. My name is Ann Boda and I'm speaking for Civic Federation. I just have a couple of quick points. We're going to try and participate as a stakeholder. We're not obviously in the SPRC. We just are referring back. We have several resolutions that are relevant here. 2026 Draft Transportation Committee resolution, a 2025 Planning and Zoning Committee resolution on improving planning and zoning policy, and a December 2024 Housing Committee resolution to adopt a housing tracker. A couple points I want to make is that we're looking at something that currently the base zoning is 2.5 FAR. The last application was for 3.89 FAR, and the current requested for 8.5 FAR. So to look at that in the context of what is being sought here, I think we need to zoom out a little bit strategically and say, what are the big strategic questions that we should be asking? And the Civic Federation wants to pose a couple of questions and look at this, as objectively as we possibly can. And we're going to try and look at this as a pilot project for our membership and ask the questions in terms of, can we demonstrate that there's existing infrastructure? I think Mr. Roberts mentioned schools, but there's a lot of other issues in terms of parks and recreation and libraries and community centers, et cetera, and sewage and wastewater, et cetera. And we're also on a riparian area, so that's another issue. So can the infrastructure accommodate the number of units in terms of that are required under Virginia Code 15.2.2884? Will the project provide the appropriate amount and type of community benefits commensurate with the level of upzoning? These are the types of benefits limited by Arlington Zoning Code 15.5.9. While also clarifying what the items may be classified as a community benefit. I think the applicant mentioned today something about tax income. I think that's not a relevant community benefit. The auditor just came out with a report on community benefits, and that's something we should look at. And then the third thing, does this meet the affordability as per the Arlington County Housing Master Plan implementation framework to provide 17% of the units at levels of 60% of AMI and below? So that's just a sort of starting point for the Civic Federation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the public comment. I think we have another staff slide to talk about next steps.
We've got two in person.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. No worries.
Somebody give him a mic. Yeah.
In the applicants in our conversation, I would be very concerned if CO 2.5 was stretched any further than it already is. CO would seem to be a much more appropriate type of thing agency. For me, one of the most important considerations would be safety, the FAA, and I appreciate that the applicant seems to take that very seriously. Having been very involved in other PDSP projects, if the applicant wants or needs to make use of it in the future, the project I think would easily fit in. I have two quick questions. Does the current fence represent the boundaries of the site? And also, will the tree canopy between the rear fence and the parkway be impacted by proposed development? And also, I just wanted to say, having participated in the entire Realize Roslyn process, do not believe the goal was to limit the possibilities for this site, but instead to leave it open for a greater number of options because of its location and the various possibilities and the steps they could take. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then I have Aaron Roberts. Oh, you want to speak as a member of, or in your own capacity?
Yeah, sure. If you don't mind.
I'm sorry, is it Aaron or someone else? I thought it's Aaron.
Yeah.
Over here, sorry.
Gentleman back there too, with the cap on, but I think want to speak as well. Thank you.
Okay, do you have a mic?
No, I get it.
Okay, so Mr. Roberts is speaking in his own capacity as a member of the public. Let's go ahead, 2 minutes.
Thank you. So it's exciting in light of the rate environment that, it's a sign of the vibrancy of Arlington that folks want to invest and invest big. That's exciting. I also want to state that the obvious, this is a $1 billion project. This is a really, really big deal. I don't think the right members of staff are in the room to hear this, but this is an opportunity to make the conversation around community benefits a good deal more transparent than they have been to the public hitherto. Really, really important. This is transformational, this project. So on that topic, we've heard a little bit about priorities, at least from this panel assembled here, but I'll just speak on a more parochial basis. Transportation safety upgrades, critically important. Community facilities, a boathouse, something like a boathouse, critically important. Open space, critically important. And context-sensitive design. It's not obvious to me that the massing and density proposed is the right measurement. I know that we're going to study that, but these are all critically important things. Thank you.
You. And then Jason Schwartz, is that you want to be sent to? Okay. I'm going to give Mr. Schwartz the mic.
It's on.
I'm Jason Schwartz with LRPC Nova, and I support the timely entitlement process of this development. It's gonna be a game changer, 1,700 new homes. Finally, Arlington's gonna have a world-class entryway. It's gonna be a game changer for our county budget. It's really gonna bring a lot of money. This is really needed for our economic competitiveness, and we need to be nimble. I'll just in Charlotte, and it's crazy what they're doing. They've got 40-story tower called Queensbridge Collective right next to what is essentially a streetcar line. This is a heavy rail transit. We're gonna have, signaling that's gonna allow trains to come on average every minute, peak direction per direction, so we need that. It's also lower density and lower heights than what's in Roslyn. And also there's 1,500 units that just delivered in Crystal City, and that's pretty fine. There's some more vibrancy, but there's still, a lot of density that this area can support. This site, I think, is a lot like, I think about Vancouver, BC, Sanok. If you look at that, it's right next to Granville Bridge. That's an indigenous site, and that density is way higher than this. But I think a lot of those principles could be used. You have a lot of density. It's also further from their fixed Skyway transit, the SkyTrain. So this is actually a really approximate site. This site was also the industrial site for Roslyn Beer Company, East 96. You look at a picture from the site, 1958, it was completely deforested. So a lot of the talk about this site being, nature and stuff, it hasn't been like that at all. Community benefits matter a lot, but we have to look at the bang for buck of community benefits. So if you look at affordable housing on site, not a good bang for buck. Okay, this could be $1,000+ per square foot. Not good we want to have families and homes, not one person gets a lucky lottery with a view. We got to transfer that to sites where we need it. And overall, I think this is a great project. We can't let permit be good. A lot of community benefits, great benefit, but in terms of density and everything, it's going to be nice, but it's not. It's 8.5 FAR. That's below 10. So I think this is a great project. And what matters is going forward. There's going to be a lot of fine tuning we're going to do, but we got to go forward because if we do nothing, it's just going to sit like this empty nuisance. We can't allow that to happen. Let's go.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Okay, so now on to the staff final slide on next steps.
Thank you. So in terms of next steps, we will synthesize the feedback that we received here tonight. And then moving forward with part 2, which it sounds like will most likely be a special study tier 2 review. And then as part of that process, we will obtain stakeholder input. We will reconvene the long range planning committee of all the stakeholders. and we will seek community input through the process. And so in terms of immediate next steps, staff will coordinate with LRPC chair to issue a letter summarizing what we've learned here tonight, and then making plans moving forward with tier 2 with the input of the LRPC chair.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for being here tonight. We are going to end a couple minutes early, so thank you all for that. But thank you more importantly for your collaborative work tonight. We did a lot of consensus building. There are some issues which, you know, one of us may have cared about and others have different opinions. You are very welcome to reach out to each other one-on-one and just kind of talk about the issues that matter. We are all part of this wonderful community that is Arlington. We're all neighbors. And I think that this work that we're all doing together is going to bring a potentially a very beautiful project right on the waterfront, some really nice community benefits, and we'll all be part of that process to make it the best that it can be. So thank you very much. Have a good night.